All right, welcome to the conversation on the TYT network, as all of our shows are. Okay, so we had the Eviction Moratorium showdown with Cori Bush, although of course Jen Psaki says it wasn't a showdown. We were all going to do the same thing until we had that protest for days and days and days, and then we got mortified and embarrassed and humiliated, and then we did it. I mean, Nancy Pelosi asked us to do it, and that's why we did it. Okay, whatever gets you through the night. We're gonna have on Max Burns. He's national political columnist at the Daily Beast. He's also the founder of Third Degree Strategies, a progressive communications firm. He does do progressive communications. He's about to do it right now. Hey, Max.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
No problem. Good to see a progressive actually write articles in mainstream media. Okay, so Max, you wrote a lot about Democratic leadership here. On TYT, we've covered a lot about how, yeah, of course they weren't going to do it, and they got embarrassed by Cori, and then they did it. They did it because of that pressure. But you wrote about you named names, right? And one of the folks that you named was Barack Obama. And so some people might say, well, that's out of left field. He's not in government anymore, and the guy's about to have a lovely birthday party in Martha's Vineyard. What are you getting on him for? So why bring him into this?
Well, I'm definitely not getting invited to the birthday party now. I think what has been so shocking with Barack Obama, with Hillary Clinton, with other major figures, is their complete silence on these major issues facing the Democratic Party in the country. And people can say, well, Barack Obama is a private citizen. Barack Obama never said he was progressive, but he is the most respected figure in the Democratic Party. And for 12 years, the most respected politician in America. His voice moves markets, moves voters, and he knows that. And it's this inexplicable choice to remain silent on such an easy win for Democrats that has raised concern, not just among observers like me, but also among the activist left.
Yeah, the only thing I disagree with is it's not at all inexplicable. It's Obama 101. The guy is obsessed with himself. And okay, everybody in mainstream media, go cry. I don't care. Okay. Oh, you can't say that about Barack Obama. He's a saint. I'm gonna smear you for the rest of your life. Okay. Yeah, I've never seen that dude ever put on his walking boots. He had that famous line about, oh my God, if there's a union in trouble, I'm gonna put on my walking boots. He's just never been able to find them. To be fair to him, he's got a lot of closets. It's a nice house. Tough to find those walking boots. But you made a great point. There's more senior Democrats going to that 60th birthday bash than there is that spoke out about this issue on television or anywhere else. Which goes to, I'm gonna stay on that, whether it's Obama or Clinton. Max, if we're being honest, they're just elites. I don't think they care at all. I've never seen Obama care about any of these issues. He thinks if he gets involved, what if he loses and that tarnishes his legacy? What if the politicians don't do what he wants and that tarnishes his legacy? What if he has to give a damn and that might tarnish his legacy? So me. What leads you to think that any of these Democratic leaders care about regular voters at all?
Well, at the moment, that's a tough sell for voters to believe. There just is no sense of urgency on things like the eviction moratorium, on rent stabilization, on things like the student loan freeze, on climate being protected in infrastructure. There has really been no driving force on this in Democratic Washington, except for the progressive left, except for the squad, except for people like Cori Bush, who have pushed and dragged the Democratic Party forward on issues that 60 to 70% of Americans support. And I have to ask myself, if Democrats aren't willing to get off the couch to win an issue that almost 70% of Americans support, that they can win with an executive order, what constitutes an easy enough fight for Democrats? I mean, this is just picking low-hanging fruit at this point, and Joe Biden had to be dragged into it by Cori Bush.
Yeah, I know what motivates them and will spring them into action, fighting a progressive. So those same folks, Hillary Clinton, Jim Clyburn, didn't give a damn about people being evicted, didn't do anything at all, right? But they're like, oh my God, Nina Turner, who actually agrees with Cori Bush on this issue, what if she wins? Then she might also embarrass us corporate goons. So they spent all their time making sure that Nina Turner lost that race. So, but Max, when you look, those things are, when you see the facts are so obvious. Like Clyburn didn't do anything to help people who were gonna get evicted. But he's all over the news attacking Nina Turner, and congratulations to him, he defeated progressives again. You realize that the problem isn't the corporate Democrats. They're very obvious and brazen. They don't give a damn at all. None of their actions have ever indicated that they give a damn. The problem is the media.
Yeah.
The media goes, oh no, Nina Turner is less Democratic than Chantel Brown. Obama and Hillary Clinton are saints, but Cori Bush is kind of embarrassing Democratic leadership. No, she's not a team player, right? So isn't it the Praetorian Guard, the corporate media, the problem here in getting people to correct information?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's bizarre. It is bizarre the way that resources are being wasted here. Millions of dollars went into Ohio 11, millions and millions of dollars in dark money to defeat Nina Turner. And that money could have gone to a messaging campaign to support rent relief that 67% of Americans support, to support student loan forgiveness that almost 80% of Americans support. Instead, that money was all spent on ammunition to shoot within the party. And in doing so, I think establishment Democrats have fallen into the same thing they accuse the left of, which is saying that the left can talk a big game, but they can't get things done. When in reality, the only things that have been meaningfully done in Congress this term have come because progressives pushed for it. So this focus on progressives must be failing because Nina Turner lost disguises the fact that if not for progressives, there would be almost no legislation coming out of this Congress.
Yeah, so speaking of money, let's talk about how that affects the eviction issue. So the Democratic Party has gotten millions of dollars from real estate interests. So there's a great article at the Daily Post written by David Sirota about exactly how much money, and including a late check from a real estate mogul gave $1 million in June to the House Democratic Caucus. And lo and behold, there's apparently a dozen Democrats who are conservative corporate Democrats who are going to benefit from that money, who are against lifting the moratorium. And so, number one, shouldn't everybody be talking about the real reason Democrats didn't take this action, which is that they got paid not to take the action? And then I'll get to number two, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think this should surprise Democrats. I think Democrats, establishment Democrats, were not prepared for how effectively Cori Bush turned her protest into a national media moment. And at this point, that's really their own fault. The progressive left did the exact same thing to push Joe Biden to raise the refugee cap back in April, and he did that. They used the same tactic again on the eviction moratorium and won again. This idea coming forward that progressives can't govern, that the establishment is the way to get things done, has been shown to be a fraud again and again. And now that Cori Bush and AOC and others are talking about this follow the money approach of looking at who's backing these votes against extending moratoriums, who's backing these politicians who support the student loan industry. Now the elites are getting very nervous because that's not a fight that they're going to look good fighting.
Yeah, and so Nancy Pelosi pretended that, oh golly gee, if we could, we obviously would have extended it. But that's not at all obvious. You didn't vote on it, and you chose not to vote on it because you actually would have lost, because the conservative Democrats would have joined the Republicans. So isn't this a bit of kabuki theater here, as they say Biden now under great pressure extended the moratorium, and that buys them time to pass a bill. But Max ain't gonna pass a bill.
Yeah, I think this is a moment where Nancy Pelosi's tacking to the right of Joe Biden. And Joe Biden asked the House to stay and continue negotiating this, continue to push forward and try and get a deal on the eviction moratorium. Nancy Pelosi said no. She said we've got to go on vacation. She didn't even bother to try that approach. And that's a pretty, I don't know if I would say courageous, but that's certainly a pretty bold position to tell the president of the United States that this policy priority isn't worth the House's time. And I think given the response we've seen from Cori Bush's protest, Nancy Pelosi's greatly regretting how she's being perceived right now. And that's an entirely unforced error on her part.
Yeah, she could have done a much better job of hiding her corruption like she normally does. She bungled that one, oops. But at the end of the day, if they vote, they're gonna lose. The Democrats are gonna kill it. And so that leads me to my last question, Max, which is, why not just have the vote? And it's okay. You say, okay, Josh Cotton, or whoever is gonna vote, the standard goons that are the corporate Democrats. They're all corporate, 90% of them are corporate Democrats, but some of them actually are willing to vote that way. And so let them vote no, who cares? And so Pelosi, of course, wants to protect them because they're gonna catch a lot of heat if they vote no. But shouldn't we put pressure on Pelosi to say, have the goddamn votes? It's okay if we lose, I get it. Those guys are conservative, I get they're corrupt, I get it, and we'll primary them. But just have the votes. Can we just have democracy, please?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with progressives who say that we should stand for something as a party. Even if the fight is bloody, it's a fight worth having. And that's the difference between the establishment and progressives. Progressives are willing to engage the fight. And it's not entirely certain that we would lose. What is certain is that if Nancy Pelosi continues to try and test the left and continues to dismiss them as a few people with their Twitter followings, the squad alone has the votes to hold infrastructure up indefinitely. That is a huge negotiating chip. And I'm glad to see progressives really starting to realize they have the exact same power to push their agenda as a Joe Manchin or a Kristen Sinema does. And they're unafraid to do it, and they're winning because they're unafraid.
That's why we started Just Democrats in the first place, and it's beginning to work. It took a little while, we were a little frustrated in the beginning, but this is exactly what they were supposed to do to hold power accountable, and they're doing it. All right, Max Burns, actually writing Truth, in this case, the Daily Beast. So Max, thank you for joining us, we appreciate it.
Anytime, thank you.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.